Today, we welcome Dr. Erica Diabasu, an experienced strategic communication consultant and researcher on internet governance policies. She is an adjunct faculty at the American University, Washington, D.C. Dr. Basu is currently working on a book proposal of her dissertation, which has evinced interest from two leading academic publishers. She is also a research associate at the American University Center for Media and Social Impact, working on digital civic storytelling projects and a fellow at the Internet Governance Lab researching technology policy issues. As chief member of media and public communication for the United States Consulate in Kolkata, she worked on a wide range of communication strategies to advance bilateral India-US objectives in India, such as economic and trade agreements, regional cooperation alliances, defense and counterterrorism partnerships, development and health initiatives, science and technology collaborations, and educational and cultural exchanges. Dr. Seuss worked in the non-profit sector 2010 to 2020, provides communication strategy and tactical guidance to raise awareness and affect attitude or behavioral change across social issues such as anti-human trafficking, sanitation and hygiene, maternal and child health, adult literacy, and alternative livelihood programs. We are delighted to have you with us, ma'am. I now request our Professor Dr. Gaur Banerjee, Principal of the Heritage Academy, to kindly say a few words. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. As the principal of the Heritage Academy, I am privileged to welcome our distinguished guest, Dr. Dia Erika Basu, adjunct professor at American University, Washington, D.C., USA, a strategic communication consultant and researcher in the area of internet policy and governance in the webinar series Media Science Frontier, organized by the Media Science Department. Today's topic in the webinar is on practical application on communication theory. Madam, our media science department is very, very vibrant. They always try to do something new under the tremendous personality and flavor of none else than our Dean Madam, Dr. Madhuba Boksi. Madam, in spite of your busy schedule, you have kindly accepted our invitation to talk on a very important topic. Though in virtual platform, I would like to extend my sincerest thanks to you for enlightening with your august presence and giving a valuable talk to our students during the most difficult time of human civilization, particularly for the youths. I feel honored to welcome respected Chief Executive Officer, Kalyan Bharati Trust, Sri Pradeep Kumar Agarwal sir, in the webinar, who is a source of continuous support, encouragement, and inspiration for all of us in the Heritage Group of Institutions. I further like to welcome Director Kalyan Bharati Trust, Mr. Pravir Roy, Director Heritage Business School, Professor K.K. Chaudhary sir, in the webinar for their valuable guidance. I am also happy to welcome distinguished dignitaries, members of faculty of Heritage Group of Institutions, including of Media Science Department, other participants, and our most beloved students in the webinar. Whenever there is any opportunity in my address, I always say a few words, at least for the person like you, madam, about our academy. The academy was conceived in 2006 by our Honorable Chairman of Kalyan Bharati Trust, C.H.K. Chaudhary sir. The Heritage Academy was set up with only 2 courses. On 1st August 2007, BBA and BCA. These are the professional courses, and it creates employment opportunity for the students, particularly for the needy students. Initially, we had 120 students affiliated under Maulana Abul Kalam Azad University of Technology, West Bengal. With the gradual increase in intake in BBA and BCA and introduction of prestigious media science department with 2 courses, BSc in Media Science and MSc in Media Science in 2016, our student strength rose to 1,000 plus. Our students are doing exceedingly well, both in academics and career progression. In academics, our students, particularly masters in media science students, BBA students, and BCA students came out as the topper, repeated topper in university results. Particularly, our students are eagerly waiting to listen to you. Thank you, madam. Thank you all. God bless you. Jai Hind.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to take a session with the graduate class in media sciences at the Heritage Academy. One of the most joyful things I find in my career as both a scholar and a teacher, as well as a strategic communication professional, is when I get to work with young students. And as much as I feel I may be able to enlighten you on a few things, I have consistently found that I actually learn as much from my students and their feedback and their reaction. So I'm hoping that this will be an interactive and engaging session that we'll have together. A few ground rules I just wanted to place before we start. I would encourage you all to please have your microphones on mute. When someone else is talking, this just cuts out a lot of the ambient sound and ambient noises. And when you are called on to, or if you want to pass a comment or you want to give some feedback, I would encourage you to use the reaction keys at the back. So I'm going to use one now. So if you see on the top of my screen here, there's a reaction key. I am able to see that, and then I can call on you to engage and interact with us. The other thing that I wanted to let you know is that this webinar session is being recorded. So you should all know that this is an open forum, and be mindful of your comments and your feedback so that it's civil and it's respectful to everybody in the webinar. So if all of you give me some kind of the third way in which you can interact is the chat function on the right. So if you want to type something there and, ask a question, or if you want to give a feedback, or if you want to pass a comment on what I've spoken about, or if you want to share a link to a pertinent website or digital news platform, please go ahead and use the chat function to engage with us there as well. So if everyone is kind of clear on the ground rules for the class today, I'll go ahead and start the webinar. Would those of you who can send me a reaction key with your thumbs up, or physically through the video, if you can show me your hand, then I'll know that you've understood the ground rules that I've laid out. I see a couple of you have put up, more are coming on. Great. That's great. Thank you all. I'm assuming that you have all understood the ground rules. So we'll begin today. The way I want to conduct this webinar is actually introduce you to three big kind of foundational media theories. These are theories which I'm sure you've already come across. We'll do a quick recap of these. Yeah, so we'll do a quick recap of the theories, and then I will break you up into breakout rooms where you will try and find through Google search, you know, go into your Google, go into your news sites that you use, and try and find applications for these theories. This is quite simple. I will be able to enter every breakout room and guide you in your work. And I'm hoping that this will make it more interactive and less didactic in its kind of pedagogy. So I'm going to go ahead first, and I'm going to share my screen. It just takes a little time to go into full screen mode. So if you just wait for a second, there we go. Okay, so the way I've thought of doing this webinar is breaking it up into kind of three big theory chunks. And after we do each one, I'm going to then break you up into a breakout room, and you're going to work in small groups with your colleagues in trying to find practical applications for these theories. So without much ado, I'm going to go ahead and start with our first set. It's working a lot slower than it normally does. There we go. Okay, so the first set of theories that I'm going to talk about is the agenda setting function of mass media. And within this theory, we're going to look at two kind of related but not synonymous concepts of gatekeeping and framing. Since you are master's students in media sciences, I'm going to make the assumption that you are aware of this very foundational theory of mass media. And so I'm not going to go into too much detail about the theory itself. If some of you don't have the kind of background knowledge, do send me a question on the chat function, and I can try and answer some of your questions there. So the basic thing, the basic two tenets of the agenda function of mass media, which was developed by McCombs and Shaw, is that the media sets and shapes public agendas and public discourse. And through that, they are able to set public opinions about important issues that the public should be thinking about. So the media, according to the agenda setting function, the media can't tell you what to think, but it can definitely tell you what to think about. So this kind of aphorism sometimes confuses students, and it says, well, don't they mean the same thing? So no, it doesn't. So what the first part tells you is that it can't tell you how to think about a particular issue. So say, for instance, if we talk about, you know, whether online retail is going to wipe out the Kirana stores. If that becomes an issue in the media, it will be written about and reported on, presenting the viewpoints of all the stakeholders involved. And a good media report should not actually take sides and tell you, give you pros and cons and tell you which is the right kind of judgment call to take. It can present the issue, that this is an issue that we are grappling with in a digital environment, but it doesn't tell you, should not tell you whether it's wrong or right. So that's what it means when it says it can tell you what to think, but it can tell you what to think about, but it can't tell you what to think about that issue. The theory itself that was created by McCombs and Shaw was studying the 1968 US presidential elections. And it's quite kind of fortuitous in that sense that we can look at the way that the current 2020 US presidential elections were conducted and see whether how big media played in it. And for this particular study, McCombs and Shaw actually looked at a very small sample size, and they looked at the city of Chapel Hill in North Carolina and analyzed voter responses to campaign issues. So they first did a content analysis of 2 mass media sources. Remember, those were the days of mass media only. So they looked at print and they looked at television coverage. And they then asked voters in the small city of Chapel Hill what were the issues that they were thinking about during the presidential elections. And what they found was there was a high correlation between the issues that the media talked about and the issues that the voters said were important to them in their voting decisions. So this word correlation is an important one, especially with media effects theories, where it's oftentimes extremely difficult to prove causation unless you conduct an experimental kind of designed study. But for the most part, most media theories are built on the concept of correlation, where they find that the input variable in this situation, it's the print and the television news coverage, the effect that it has on the output variable or the dependent variable. And over here, it was the opinion of the Chapel Hill voters. And they found that those issues that the media had as their top 5 issues were also closely correlated with what the voters said were their top 5 issues. And therefore, they kind of surmised that there is a strong correlation, and this was the first time that the concept of agenda setting as a major function of mass media was developed. That the media can't tell you how to think about an issue, but it definitely tells you what issues to think about. I'm going to try and, this is going a little slower in terms of the share. There you go. Okay. So related to the agenda setting function are 2 important concepts. One is gatekeeping, and the second is framing. Now, gatekeeping is the process of kind of curating and culling and selecting the number of stories that mass media is going to be able to put out. And remember, we're talking about a time when this is pre-digital, and so newspapers had limited space in terms of how many pages they had that they could use. And television channels had limited time. I mean, there was at the end of the day 24 hours in a day. And within those 24 hours, they had to kind of prioritize which stories they were going to put out and cover during that space in time. So there are the process of selecting which news issues are worthy of making it into the news coverage of these outlets is known as the concept of gatekeeping. So it's literally, if you physically think of a gate, and you close the gate at some point and then you open the gate to allow certain stories to be covered. And these are dependent on, like I said, space or time. Then, the political, social, and cultural kind of context. So if it's a local city paper, it would tend to focus much more on local news, and they may have a section for national news, and if at all, a section for international news. National level papers, on the other hand, we find that they tend to provide a more broad kind of coverage of news articles that have relevance to the national audience. And some papers, of course, also have regional or metro city sections where they will focus on the local news. Other newspapers also have kind of a cultural section, they will have a sports section, they will have kind of fashion, lifestyle. So these are all the ways in which gatekeeping is enforced within the newsroom. Now, within these agendas that we spoke about before, there are different kinds of agendas, and different agendas get priority based on who is putting out the news. So there is a public agenda, there's a policy agenda. So when a country or a state or a city makes an announcement about an important policy issue that affects citizens, that will find itself in the newsroom. Social agenda. So sometimes there are social events that take priority. And then within the newsroom, there are a bunch of agendas based on the kind of news outlet it is, the financial resources that they have. There are a lot of newspapers, especially local newspapers in the West, that are closing down now because of financial restraints. And they therefore depend on news aggregators and wire services to provide them with inputs rather than having their own reporters cover every single news story. And then, of course, and this is very kind of prevalent, especially today in an era where we have so much information, is how much audience attention capacity can you depend on. So if you know who your audience is and what kind of news they look for, you will gatekeep and curate your news coverage based on your audience's capacity to actually retain their attention. And the final kind of concept within agenda setting that I'd like to talk about is the concept of framing. So for some reason, this is definitely going a whole lot slower. The page changes. Okay, so while we wait for the screen to change, what I'm going to go ahead and is, sorry. Yeah, what I'm going to go ahead and do is talk about framing. And so framing is often referred to as second level agenda setting. So remember when I gave you the definition of agenda setting, it's that agenda setting tells you what to think about, which issues to think about, but it doesn't tell you how to think about those issues. Well, framing is the additional kind of piece to agenda setting, and that's why it's called the second level agenda setting function of media, is that way a news article is covered may actually have certain ways in which they guide you to think about these issues. So it kind of limits the meaning that you should take out of it and provides a lens or a frame through which you should be looking at these issues. And the way they do it is sometimes episodic. So what they will do is when they're talking, say, for instance, you know, during the pandemic in India, right in the beginning, there was a lot of news about the migrant workers. So if a newspaper article begins its article by providing an episodic human interest story to the news report, and so they use an episode, they immediately kind of frame the news report as one that is of human interest, and so the human interest value of the story is highlighted. The other is if it's thematic. So they may be doing a series on the effects of the lockdown of the pandemic on different sections of society. So if a newspaper does a series of articles, one on migrant labor, one on small business owners, one on students, then it is kind of providing the frames through which you can look at the effect of the pandemic and lockdowns on various sections by dividing it up into kind of thematic frames. And then there are two additionals, which is the macro and the micro. And the macro takes a much more kind of holistic, maybe in this example, a kind of global perspective on what's happening and look at the larger policy issues. And then the micro framing is when they look at one specific incident and report on that. So a lot of crime reporting is sometimes done as a micro story. So they focus specifically on that one incident. Else, it may also be that they will focus on the one incident to begin with, and then the story kind of pans out to provide a larger picture on the state of crime in a particular city or a country or a region, and therefore provides a rather macro frame to this. Finally, what I want to leave you with as far as agenda setting, gatekeeping, and framing is that there is actually now a convergence in the digital era, and it is not quite so easy to delineate the different actors based on who is a news producer, who is a news creator, and who is the decision makers, whether it's the government, whether it's the editors, whether it's kind of public policy people who are driving these issues. So what they're finding is that decision makers, and this relates to how information flows to citizens. So in the earlier mass media days, information would flow from the decision maker. So say the prime minister would have a press conference with journalists, and then the journalists would report on those issues to the citizens, and that's how the citizens came to know of those issues. Then there was the era of the first era of the internet, where you had both the decision makers sometimes talking directly to the citizens through, through the digital media, and also having press conference. So you would have both communication happening between the decision makers, the journalists, and the citizens. There is a tendency, and this is not a black or white issue, but there is a tendency with the advent of social media platforms, especially Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and Messenger and now WhatsApp, where decision makers are talking directly to citizens. And there are times and instances where the journalist is cut off. Now, this is a model that's up for debate about whether this is 100% true, or is there something more like this that's going on, where you have decision makers, journalists, and citizens, and there are times when the decision makers talk directly to citizens, and there are times when they do it via journalists as well. So this is something that's up for debate. I'd love to hear what you have to say about this. I'm not going to go into a lot more detail about this. What I am going to do is stop sharing at this point, come back to the class, and how many of you have engaged in a Zoom classroom where you are broken up into kind of smaller breakout rooms? How comfortable are you in doing this? If you can show me a reaction key, then I'll know how comfortable you are and how much I need to explain. So I'm going to take it that you haven't used this format. So I'm going to explain it a little bit. What I am going to do is I'm going to, through the Zoom platform, break you up into smaller groups. And we have about 25 participants, and I'm going to not keep Professor Banerjee and Professor Madhupa on this. If they get assigned to a room, I'll take them out from there. So what Zoom will do, will send you a message on your screen that says that you have been assigned to a breakout room. Do you want to go? You should accept, and then you will find yourself in a much smaller room with about 3 or 4 people that you will be able to discuss agenda setting, gatekeeping, and framing. And the exercise that I want you to do is based on what we just talked about with regard to agenda setting, gatekeeping, and framing. In your small group, I'd like you to look up some news articles that are relevant for you. They don't have to be political news. They don't have to be business news. If it's lifestyle news that you're interested in, that's fine. And then talk amongst yourselves about how you think that particular news article could relate to this concept of agenda setting, gatekeeping, and framing. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to break you up into little rooms. There are 23 of us. So I'm going to do 7, maybe 5. So you should get a notice in your Zoom screens that's inviting you to join a breakout room. Just click on the accept and join that room.
Thank you so much, Dia, for sparing time. These are difficult times, and our students also need varied sorts of experiences, because this is only through the net that we can be in touch with them. The more we have such discussions, the better for them. The better is that we can show them a world which is beyond those confines of the rooms and what the regular media intake that is happening. So thank you so much for sparing time. We look forward to having you sooner, and I know you would be here. Also, one thing that I wanted you to touch upon, maybe an undergrad class more upon, because a lot of them go abroad, want to go abroad and study. So when you come back for the undergrad class, maybe you can have a session on them, that how they need to prepare and what is the what they need to do to be ready for that area.
Right.
And thank you, Raina. Would you who is summing up? Raina, would you sum up?
Yes, ma'am. So I would really like to extend my gratitude towards our guest lecturer for this enriching session. Thank you very much, ma'am. I am sure we'll carry forward whatever you have taught us today, and we'll nurture our future. Finally, I would like to thank our principal for allowing us to organize this session. Thank you, Madhupa ma'am, for your endless support and supervision. And lastly, I would like to extend my gratitude towards the audience for their presence, patience, and attention. Thank you, and we look forward to see you all on our next webinar session that will be held on Friday, December 18th at 8 p.m. Indian Standard Time with Dr. Harsh Taneja. And so with this is Raina Biswas signing off. Thank you. Stay well and stay safe, everybody.